Hi, it is Michelle's Paper Studio, and we're going to do a little update. I am so excited. As you can see, the pile is disappearing. Woohoo! There's not a lot left, which is really good. But I'm not showing a lot of progress at the moment. But when I do new steps, I'm letting you guys know what I'm doing. So that way, if you guys could get the first few steps, because this is a process. And so I am pulling out my sewing machine right now, which, by the way, some people will say sewing on paper isn't the best. I literally just recently got a little sewing machine from Temu. It was like $19.99. There was 12 stitches. I'm not trying to promote it, but it was definitely a great buy, and I got it so that way I could use it purely for papers. And this is what we created, and this is just a start. I'm going to be doing a lot of this again. This is a mass journal session for me, so I make more than most will probably be willing to want to sit and watch. But these were just random scraps of paper that I had glued together a while back to literally do what I'm doing now, and these will be again reading material that I tuck into pockets when the journal was created. As you can see, there's my beloved dictionary. So these are from my dictionary journals. Some are got dictionary. These are just a few of the ones that I did, and I just put stitches on them so I could go ahead and decorate them later. And I love making tags. It's like one of my whole processes is making tags. That's one of my favorite joys. So I'm excited about this. I'm finally to this part where I'm like, yay, I get to make tags. And I have a few tag die cuts, which means you put the paper in there and you cut it and it cuts a die for you. But literally, I personally like handmade dies that we create from scratch. And so literally I had a ton of these drying, and this is my steps of making tags. I literally use an old book page in the middle, and then I glue a piece of my concordance because this one is literally about Bible reading, but I also managed to get the dictionary on there. And because as we turn it around and look at these words, prayer, pray, preach, preacher, I thought, wow, that was amazing and praiseworthy. It was all on one page, so I was like, awesome, that's gonna go in my Bible journal. So I glued both pieces of these paper on each side. I'll cut up the sides and then I'll do a little line and we'll make those the tags. And literally I like to use, it's just Walmart's cheapest glue. It works great, and I don't know, I really think this little cheap stuff works pretty good. But around school time they sell this big pack, which I happen to get, and literally I glue it down on one side. I let it dry so that way it goes straight, and then when it's dry I flip it over and I glue on the back, which just makes it really thick, so it's like a card. And then we run it through the sewing machine just to make sure it doesn't come apart. Although some people say glue sticks always come apart, and I have bought different versions of glue sticks. In my own experience, and literally climate really matters. Like places with humidity, glue sometimes doesn't always dry properly. Sometimes it stays moist. Sometimes it doesn't stick at all. So I do think climate has something to do with it. But I have things that I glued down with this without stitching, and it's still glued, and it's like 8 years later. So with that said, I don't know. I love these guys. I think they're awesome. I happen to get them every time it's like back to school, because it seems to be the only time where I could buy them in a super huge pack. And that's just my own personal preference. They work wonderful, but a lot of people say glue comes undone, and personally I like the stitch effect. So after I glue them down on both sides and let them dry, because you know glue sticks, even though it's glue sticks, it gets moist, and that's why I do one side and then I let them dry and I come back and I do the other side, so that way I get a flat tag, not a warped one. And literally in my own experience I found out if I don't do it like that they end up warped, but if I let each side dry individually then they are flat like that, and I cut them up and I make tags, and they will be stuck to pockets. And this was just to update. Again, this is a long process that we are going through this month or two. I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take a couple weeks. It might take 2 months. But I have a lot of the tags and then stuff that go into my journal. So right now I am literally creating little cards and tags and things that I could tuck in the pocket and that I'm going to sew down. I'm also probably going to do a few pages. I will show you guys what I am talking about. This is my base journal. I've already talked about it. I did a tutorial on it, but I have not yet uploaded. It is coming, please. Thank you for patience. It might still take a second. I am working on a ton of things at once, but this is what I call a base journal. It's not completed, and I have a process of how I do all my journals, and many times I will take 2 or 3 different pieces of paper. And this one is I'm not sewing, so I didn't do it, but there's other journals where I sew and I create a paper like this, and before I attach it to the book, I literally will run a little seam or a stream or a thread or just sew on top of all the papers. But again, this is my no sew journal, but I literally do the same thing. Like, I call these base journals. They're not completed. This is just how I create them. And again, I more than likely I might run a stitch like up there or around this, and I would just before I attach it. So it is sewing machine time, and everything that I will create in the next day or two is all going to be run through the machine. So I will update this again when I am through, and hopefully we could get to the fun stuff. I'm like, yes, we're getting to the fun stuff finally. I don't necessarily like making the cards because, as I said in my other videos, literally just gluing 2 pieces of paper. I'm like, we're almost to the part where I like, where we get to decorating it and making it beautiful. So this is just me doing an update in a mass journal seasoning. Thank you for watching. Hope that your day is wonderful and well. You don't have to use the sewing machine as I just showed you in my no sew book. You could use glue or you could sew, and if you do sew, I don't know, don't go and buy a brand new machine because there is a lot of wear and tear of running paper through it. So literally, I do not know if Temu is still running it, or I'm not trying to like literally promote Temu, but I got let's see if I can grab it. This little guy with all those stitches, 12 stitches, was like for $19.99. And so I changed the needle to a heavy duty needle, and it works great, and it is working wonderful, and it was absolutely perfect for what I intended it to do it. So not trying to sell anybody, but if you don't have a sewing machine, you could, find one really cheap, or you could perhaps get lucky like I did. I found one at Goodwill for like $5, and I have that. And so if you don't want to sew, you don't have to. You can. It's just an option. It makes your paper beautiful. I did sew this little lady down because like the glue was coming up, and so I was like, oh no, let's just run it through the machine. And then I lost a tag that was in the pocket, but oopsie. And so again, she'll just sit in there like that, and I'll probably put a little bow or something in a little hole. And literally, sewing just adds something for you to look at. These books are so beautiful when they're finished, and we'll start to see that as we progress them a little more. Thanks for watching. I hope that your day is well.